There's our S&P right there. So the S&P comes in at 0.75% net. IWM was just a fraction less at 0.75. Diamonds had a respectable 0.65. So let's see what was better than the S&P. Well, finance at 1.05, discretionary 1.07, tech leaders 107.72 they got to, so that's 1.63%. So a little more than double the S&P was the tech. And then there's some of our tech names: Facebook, Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, all the usual suspects, the guys that you want to see. What else was better? Virgin Galactic, some speculative oil, USO. We're going to see a swing trade, and that one looks pretty interesting. Grind it out. Wheat and precious metals, so maybe that's guys just buying ahead for the next sell-off. They're trying to get it while they can, and they're building those defensive positions. I see a lot of literature on gold getting above 1,800, so that's least surprising behavior there. There's this running gun battle right now between TECL, which is the triple tech sector, so there's a lot of broad names in that one, but it's not just pure tech. There's some tech plays that are benefiting from technology, whereas TQs are the NASDAQ, and that's really the FANG companies, your Facebooks, Amazons, Netflix, Google, are dominating that. So it's a race to the top between the broad tech sector, 4.5%, and the NASDAQ triple leveraged at 3.8. Yesterday, the NASDAQ won. Today, the broader tech sector won. And then just when we were ready to write this one off for dead, Nikola Motors. We had trouble shorting it yesterday because of borrowing shares, and today they just crushed it with 34%. Hey, Ken, I thought you liked the large caps all the time. Yeah, I do, but I'm open to the possibility of high volume speculative plays in the tech sector. That'd be an example of why. We'll see that trade a little bit later. What was worse than the S&P to the downside? Well, let's see. We have lumber at 0.5. Cisco and Johnson & Johnson continuing to lag at 0.4 and 0.3. Oil exploration at 0.1 to the good. Devon Energy also 0.1. Healthcare flat. Japan and energy both slightly in the red. Real estate minus 0.1. Simon Property minus 0.3. Treasuries started well but then sold off minus 0.4. They're trend is still up, though. We're going to take a look at them in a second. Mexico minus 0.6. Pfizer minus 0.8, continuing to lag. And now here's our materials sector, and let's take a look at, listen to these names. Alcoa minus 1.25, the sector minus 1.4, U.S. Steel minus 1.7. Walmart couldn't hold the edge, was down 2%. And then Cliff and Nucor Steel down 3 and 3.7% respectively. So no follow through on materials. And now if the S&P starts to lose, then we wouldn't be surprised if XLB was lagging. So plenty of movers on both ends of the spectrum here. And to me, it still seems tech up, and then energy and materials and finance weaker. I'm trying to remember where I saw finance. Oh yeah, finance was fractionally better. Okay, so not quite so bad. So energy and materials bad, tech even. Finance even, and then tech large. So if I was going to draw that picture for tomorrow, this is how I'm thinking of it. And then from here, it's this race between TQQQ and TECL. So tomorrow, if the S&P is here and it's going up, then if tech is better, then I'm just going to choose between one of those two and just pile on. And that way I don't really have to make it a hard decision. I can do something like, let's see, so here's TECL and what they hold. Microsoft is 22%, Apple 20%. You have Intel and NVIDIA on there in fractions. So TECL is kind of a way to just own Microsoft and Apple, kind of pure play. You have a few other interesting ones in there. NVIDIA is interesting because they are winning the chip battle against Intel. Today they got a larger market capitalization than Intel. So they've moved past Intel into first place as the world's chip leader. PayPal, Salesforce, Cisco, MasterCard, Visa, they're just some people that are enabled by software and technology and financial services. So this is not as pure a play on tech as the TQs are, but it does give you really massive weighting on Microsoft and Apple, kind of the old school tech. It would be worth your while to go check out what are the holdings on the Qs and just see what the different tech exposures get you. So meanwhile, XLF was co-equal today with the S&P, and so that's going to have us looking at JP Morgan and AXP. But you could also just play that with FAS, the triple leveraged finance, or FAZ, the triple leveraged short finance. And then way down here below the S&P today, energy and materials. So this wouldn't surprise us. Actually, oil was actually pretty good today, but the other, Devon Energy was bad. And then Cliff, Nucor, U.S. Steel, all were down big. So if we saw tomorrow the S&P down and then XLB double bad, I'd be looking at this stack. And let me add Alcoa in there. So if the S&P is down and XLB is worse, then I'm just going to scan for those four and see which one is losing the most. That's called finding the mover. And then maybe it's U.S. Steel. So that's the logic chain. You say, market down, sector worse. What's the worst performer in the sector? And then get short that one. And the same thing on energy. If S&P's down and energy's worse, I'm going to come over here and look to see what's worse. And maybe it's, I could put Chevron in there. But also XOP. Now there's some 3x leveraged energy sectors and 3x leveraged material sectors. I have been really concentrating more on the companies than I have the pure play leveraged ETFs because they're not as liquid as these large cap and mid cap symbols, and they tend to trade very purely. So when they're collapsing, I really like them. Now, by the same token, it would not be impossible to see this scenario. Hey, the S&P is up, but now because they've been beaten down, you got XLE and XLB outperforming. So you could see very easily XLE and XLB now suddenly take a leadership position. Why would that be the case? Well, it would be because people who have a long-term belief about the fair value of those companies might say, hey, here's a chance to buy them on sale. And so you could see a bunch of buying pressure come in on something that underperformed today, but tomorrow that could drive that whole sector to be better than the S&P. So when we're talking about the logic chain and finding the movers, we study the index and those business sectors, and then we branch out from there to find the things that are very volatile so that we can find the thing in the sector that's moving the most. Or in the case of those triple leverage ones, I could just buy if the sector is moving better than the market, then the triple leverage sector is moving better than the market. And FAS, FAZ are fine. You could also extend this little analogy to IWM, the Russell, which can lead you, like Ken Hun likes to do, TNA and TZA, or like I like to do with the Dow. I like UDow and SDow. So there's a way that you can play these sectors directly and not have to worry about the extra complexity of companies if you just want to go for the market. And why is that a good play? Well, because the market is 50% of the gains, the sector is worth 25% of the gains, and then the company itself is only another 25% of the gains. So if you get the sector and the market right, you're getting 3/4 of the advantage for much less cognitive cost. The extra complexity you get by adding companies makes the cognitive cost raise a little bit. And so to offset that, instead of the extra volatility of the companies, you might just want the extra volatility of those triple leverage sectors. So that's for you to discover which one of those approaches feels better. Okay.